Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Glass, the window cleaning podcast. This is episode 5. I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling what to do for this one, but what I thought I'd cover is there was a particular time where within 1 year, I put my back out 3 separate times, and each time it took me 2 weeks to get back to normal. So I thought I'd cover that because you've got to look after this, especially as I'm aging. These things are probably going to happen more often. So what steps did I do to try and limit all this? Because it is bad, let's face it, when your back's not working right, it's blinking painful. And anything that stops you working is going to hit you hard because no work, no pay. And unfortunately, we can't stop aging, but you can upgrade your tools. So investing wisely in these will look after you, especially as you start to becoming a bit of an old bucker like me. Now, I can't remember exactly what year it was. I think it was something like 2020 when I put me back out 3 separate times during that year. And then, like I said, there's 2 weeks to get over it, but there's 1 week where I could hardly move at all. And then during the second week, things were starting to get a bit better, but I couldn't work effectively. I was having to loosen up my back, test it with trying to do some work, and then sit out for a bit, because if I pushed it, it would have been longer than 2 weeks to get me back right. But fortunately for me, because I don't work on my own, I do work with my son, also my wife. And at the time, my other daughter, Sophie, she worked with me as well. So what it enabled me to do is basically, even though my back was buggered, I could drive the van. And then Matthew and Sophie, they did all the work cleaning the windows. But what I also found is a way of testing, and instead of just sitting there with me back where it'd lock up and get worse, I could get out the van and walk around. But I'd have to walk very slowly, mind. You could tell I had a problem with me back. And if there's one of them customers that came out, I was able just to chat away with them and have a nice, decent chat and keep an eye on Matthew and Sophie while they're working. And that's basically what we did for a week. And then during the second half of the week, I started to feel like I could grab a pole. So I would do something, try and clean a few windows. The moment my back felt like it was getting worse, I would then just sit back, let Matthew and Sophie do it. And then I kept creeping in like that. And then as that second week went on, I was gradually doing more and more. And then come the end of that week, I felt after a weekend, I'd be back to normal, which is how it worked. But that third week, I was being very careful not to lift anything awkwardly or anything that was a bit heavy. I was very careful because the last thing I want to do is put my back out. So that's where I was lucky. If I was on my own, that could have been 2 weeks worth of work 3 times that particular year, where I'd have lost money and I'd have got behind as well. So that's not the place I wanted to be. So this made me basically look at things and then decide I'm going to have to invest money in certain bits of equipment that's going to make my life easier and avoid all these injuries to my back. Now, I'm not sure what I did to my back. I have no idea because I never went sick. I hated going sick in the military anyway. So I didn't go down to see the doctors because I felt if I was at the doctors, I'm not out driving the van. I was the only one who could drive the van because Sophie and Matthew didn't want to drive at that time. So it just down to me. So I just kept saying, I'll just keep going and play it by ear. And that's just typical me, I suppose. So I don't actually know what I'd done to me back, but it did feel like it was like a sharp shooting pain, like your nerves. I couldn't get in and out of bed very well, put me socks on and all that sort of stuff. But what I think it is muscular, and I've done something and it's all gone really tight just because I lifted something a bit heavy and I perhaps wasn't using manual handling correctly and I wasn't in the best position to start with. So I sat down with my wife and I said, right, what are we going to do? So I took out a bounce back loan because of COVID. And the idea was I'd have that in the bank because we didn't know how things were going to pan out. And then that way I can limp through the year. But the idea was if I'd still got that money sat in the bank at the end of the year, I could pay that loan off and I own nothing. So it was a bit of a safety net. However, I ended up breaking into that because I invested and it was good. So it's been nearly 5 years. 5 years in November, I'd have finished the bounce back loan. The bounce back loan. So I'll cover what I got. First thing I'll go through is I got electric reels. Now I've got 2 reels in the back of my van I did have where you lift them out. They're on a big frame. They had wheels as well, which were good. And they held 100 meters of, at the time it was 8 millimeter hose. So it's lifting them in and out. Now, when you're doing like 20 cleans a day, for example, you're lifting that reel out 20 times, and you're also lifting it up to put it back in your van 20 times. So that's 40 times a day you're lifting up and down that reel. Plus, because you're in a rush, you are aware that you're not in the correct position when you think of manual handling, and you're just thinking it's not too bad and lift it in and out. So those things don't help. And then also reeling in the hose, that can be quite hard, especially when it's on grass, which is wet. The hose takes a bit of effort to reel in. And again, you're trying to reel this in as fast as you can because you want to get on with the next job and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, right, sod it. I'm going to get these electric reels. Now, because I like X-Line stuff and I set up with X-Line equipment, I went with the X-Line X reel. So I got two of them, one for me, one for Matthew in the back of the van. And they were absolutely brilliant. And I can tell you the day me and Matthew used it for the first time, we were just in amazement and we're looking at each other thinking, what a game changer. Why the hell didn't we do this earlier? I mean, packing up and setting up was so much easier because you just had to grab it and go. And when you reel in, it was so much easier. And we're not lifting neither the reels that we did have in and out of the van. It was just grab and go. So electric reels definitely speed you up a bit. And when you've had years of lifting in and out, I can tell you electric reel is definitely worth its money. So that is brilliant. That was a good investment. And like I said, I got two of them. And plus Matthew found it a huge benefit for him as well. And you've got to bear in mind as well with Matthew, he's got slight scoliosis on his back as well. So as well as it being an investment for me, it's a good investment for Matthew as well. Now, the other big thing that I went out and got was a Sky Vac Industrial 85 gutter vacuum system. So I got the gutter vacuum. I did go for this one because when I've been watching Ashley McIntosh on his YouTube videos, as soon as I saw him with the Industrial 85, did a video about that, I thought that's the one I want. So that was on my radar and my wish list. So to have the money there to go and get it because of the bounce back loan, I decided I'm going to go for it because when's the next time I'm going to have that? Previous to that, the way I've been cleaning gutters is using my big ladder. Now I've got a triple extension ladder. It's got D rungs on it. So they're really good to stand on. They're comfy. And I got the tallest one I could get that would collapse down enough so that it'd fit on my van safely. Now I can't for the life of me bring you up all the specs on that, but I'm pretty sure it goes up to around 8.5 meters, something like that. So third story buildings getting to the windows, absolutely no problem. Third story gutters, absolutely no problem getting to them. It does struggle though on the old Edwardian style houses, but it just about can do it on the ones I've done anyway. If it was a little bit shorter, it wouldn't have been big enough. So it was a decent sized ladder, and I think it weighs just slightly over 20 kilograms. Now, it doesn't sound like it's a lot, but when you're holding something that's a couple of meters long or whatever it is, you'll be amazed. So having to get that ladder off the van and on, then you've got to carry it around the house. Now, when you go around the house, it's fine on your shoulders, but you've got to look up and be careful because you could have telephone wires, electric wires, definitely be wary of them. Then you've got your satellite dishes where you don't want to start smacking into them. And then what you'll find is as well, when you're going underneath gates, some of them will have like a bar across the top. So you can't carry the ladder on your shoulders. You've got to do it horizontal. Same with going down alleyways to get to the rear of a house, for example. Then you've got washing lines, the trellis works and arches, decorative arches people have around their house. So there's a lot of occasions really where I'm having to carry the ladder sideways on my own because Matthew perhaps is getting another bit of equipment. Then you've got the manual handling of putting this ladder into position, getting it up to a particular height, making sure it's all safe to work on, and then up you go. So that coupled with lifting in and out your reel 40 times a day, you can see where your back is taking a lot of strain. And you're probably carrying this ladder as well in a way that you're not supposed to. But it's the only option you do it. You're against the time, so you just focus on trying to get a shift on, really. And then it's going up and down the ladder itself, and you're just cleaning the gutters. So for a long time, I've been really wanting to get a gutter vac, but I knew I could get by with what I had with the Pro Gutter tools and a pole, a ladder mate so I can clip my bucket on there, and away I go. But there were occasions where I was thinking I need a gutter vac, because when it's all watery, it's nothing worse than trying to clear a gutter. You're pulling in on all the moss and leaves, and then as soon as you grab it and put it in your bucket, the water's then sliding the opposite way, and it's also dragging stuff into the area you've just cleaned, and you're having to re-clean it. So the whole process was taking a long time, and you're getting a mess on the gutters sometimes, so you felt like you're going to have to clean it up with a water-fed pole. Now, with a gutter vac, that'd negate all that as well. Now, I know a gutter vac is not the be-end all, but that coupled with a ladder, you're definitely going to get a customer's gutters cleaned easy. No excuse. You've got everything you need. So I was dying to get a gutter vac. And like I said, I had my eye on this Sky Vac Industrial 85, which is what I got. And when I got it, it's literally a couple of weeks later, they brought out the newer ones where they've got the drain feature on it and the sieve basket in. The one I got didn't have all that. So I brought the Industrial 85. It's, just in case you don't know, it's got 3 motors. So it's a triple motor, total of 3,600 watts with all 3 motors on. And then I got the package. You can get all these with different packages. So I went for carbon fiber elite poles. Again, I thought if I went to the alley poles, they're going to be a bit heavier on my back. Carbon poles are going to be lighter. So I went for it because I had the money, and I got 8 poles. So I got plenty of reach using 8 poles. I don't intend to be cleaning gutters at 60 foot high. That's the reach you've got with these. But when you're going over a conservatory or an extension to reach gutters, that comes in handy. And also where you can see the gullies from the ground, I can also clean the gullies from the ground with this sort of length of poles. So that's why I went for them. I also got with it different goosenecks. So I've got 3 different styles of goosenecks. So it covers all occasions for me. And then with the bag that comes with the 8 poles, it's got 6 different ends that you can fit into the gooseneck for different jobs when you're cleaning out the gutters. So I got all them, and they're absolutely brilliant. And they're not push fit neither, the poles. They're clamped, so a lot easier to do up and undo at the end of the day when you finish working. And it also came with a 5-meter hose to go from the gutter vac to your poles. But later on, I've upgraded this to, I can't remember if I've gone 10 meters or 7.5. I'm pretty sure it's 10 meters I've got. This just meant I can do more moves without moving my gutter vac, basically. It gives me a bit more room to play with. I've got a bag as well for the hose to go in, so it's all nicely stored away. And then I've got an extension reel with this. So it's a 25-meter extension reel, and it's rated for 3,600 watts. So I could have all 3 engines. I can have all 3 motors on my gutter vac on, so it's perfectly safe. But I also didn't want to rely on the customer having to be there to use the customer's electricity. You're probably aware, with a gutter vac, if it's quite powerful, what can happen is you can trip the customer's electric. An RCD plug comes in handy for that, but what you find is they don't always fit an external outside plug socket. Although I'm starting to find nowadays now, those sort of plug sockets also have an RCD switch built in, which is handy. But that's not a showstopper, because you can still plug in your 25-meter extension reel and then use your RCD plug on your extension, and then that's what you can plug your gutter vac into. So that's the point of safety, so to speak. So it's going to stop the customer's electric tripping. That's probably fine if they're in there. They're going to curse, no doubt, but they'll know how to flip the electrics all back on. Whereas if the customer's out and that happens, then I'm at risk, aren't I? The problem with their freezers could be fish tanks and all that kind of stuff. So to avoid all that, I just thought it'd be better to get a generator. So I got the generator to go with the gutter vac. If you go on there, it's a Sky Vac generator. It's 5 kA. At the time, it was the only one they did that could power an Industrial 85 gutter vacuum from them. They have since got other generators, which are a bit smaller, that will power an Industrial 85. I think there's only one down from that. But my generator that I've got, I think it's 65 kilograms all up. It's on wheels. It is a big monster, but it is absolutely solid. And what I find as well is, me and Matthew have noticed this, when we're using the customer's electric, it's not as powerful with 3 motors on as compared to when we're running it off the generator with the throttle on full. So the generator gives us a lot more power as well. Now, when I clean the gutters, we don't always have all 3 motors on. We used to, but what we normally do is try and use 2. And then I've just got a 3rd motor for if I need it for that extra lift or that extra bit of power to get something that's really stubborn out. Sometimes we just use 1 motor as well. Because what I find is if you've got all 3 motors on full pelt, it's like you trying to eat food full pelt. At some point, you're going to have too much in your mouth or you're going to choke on it. So it can cause problems. So if you just work a bit smoother, smooth is fast, as they say. So you don't need to have the most powerful gutter vac in the world and have it on full power neither. And then also because I've got the generator, I've got to find a way of getting it in and out of my van. It's too heavy to lift. And I always work on, worst case scenario, I'm on my own. So I had to buy the ramps that Sky Vac did as well. So the whole package, basically, all in all, was £5,500. But I didn't ask for it. They took £500 off. So I got the whole system, everything I've described for my gutter vac, for £5,000. Now it's a big outlay, but by Christ, it was worth it. And I noticed the difference using my gutter vac. For the last 5 years, Sky Vac Industrial 85 has not let me down at all. And I fall in love with it every time I use it. It's absolutely brilliant. Now, what I'm not saying to everyone is you need to get a Sky Vac Industrial 85. They've got another model which is even more powerful than that. And I'm fortunate that the generator I've got will also power that one. But I'm really happy with what I got. Does the job. And also with all that package as well, one thing I didn't mention on there is I brought the Sky Vac camera, the monitor and the camera. I had the older system where you could record on it. That went US, so I brought a more up-to-date one, but it's not one that's recordable, which is fine. And we use all that, and it's absolutely brilliant. So what has it done? Like I said, it saved me now having to lift the ladder around, carrying it at awkward angles. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when I still need a ladder because there's certain troublesome spots that your gutter vac is not going to get in there and clean it. For example, you've got a big clump of something. There's a root system. It's gone underneath a tile, or it's in the corner of a gutter system underneath where them gullies are. And what you normally find is a bit of lead as well lining around there. So the roots curl in through that. So the gutter vac's not going to lift that out. And sometimes you have to go and do it by hand. So I still use the ladder, but I'm not using it for everything. So I'm not having to lug that around, and that helped protect me back as well. Now, to use the gutter vac compared to the ladder, yes, setting up, packing away probably takes longer. But doing the actual job, it is far, far quicker. And plus, because I'm doing everything from the ground, I'm upright, I'm protecting my back more. And you learn to let the poles do all the work. And because I've got the carbon poles, the elite poles that Sky Vac do, they are surprisingly really nice and light. And what you'll find is when you work with them, especially in wet weather, they clog up like arteries can. And you'll be surprised the amount of weight that goes in there. So imagine if I had the alley poles plus the weight inside with all the sludge that's furring up the poles, so to speak, like your arteries can. You'll be surprised at the weight. So the carbon poles, absolutely brilliant. And again, I'm fortunate because I'm not always working on my own. I've got Matthew, my son, working with me, and Sophie worked with us as well for a couple of years. So between the 3 of us, putting this kit in and out of the van is quite a good, speedy setup routine we had. Plus, we're all sharing the load, especially when it comes to the generator. Because like I said, it's 65 kilograms. And when you're standing on shingle and you feel like you're in a rugby scrum trying to push it up there, your feet can slip. But when there's 2 or 3 of you about, you can all help each other and it gets in there, no problem. So the gutter vac was, it was a game changer. And I absolutely love it. Like I said, every time you use it. Those of you who are looking for gutter vacs, don't think you've got to get a free motor gutter vac because there are lots of other companies out there that do lots of other different models. But what you can definitely get is a gutter vac. Now you can get a single motor. They're more powerful than they used to be now. And you could even get a double motor one. The good thing about having 2 motors or 3 motors is, like I've said, I use 2 motors mainly. And if one of my motors was to go out and it needs replacing, it's not going to stop me working because I've still at least got 1 motor going. And because I've got 3, I can use the unused motor. So I'll still switch down to my 2 motors. So if you've got a gutter vac with 2 motors in it, basically, if one of them is to go, you can still continue working whilst you're then having to source a new motor and change it around yourself. but you can get the models with just one motor as well. They're powerful enough. Now, these are a lot smaller, so they're easier to fit in your van, don't take up so much room, and it's easier to lift in and out yourself. Plus, the generators aren't going to be as big as the generator I've got. They're very easy for one person to pick up out the van and walk around with as well. So the generator is nice and light, takes up less space than the big beast I've got. My setup, I have to take out any spare barrels of water that I carry, because like I said, we were working as a 3, or any trolley systems out to make room for the Industrial 85, the 65 kilogram 5KA generator. Then I've got all the pole bags. And again, just because I've got a Sky Vac, I still take a ladder stay out with me because I may have to use my ladder. I've still got the Pro Gutter tools. And then I've still got all the buckets that I empty the rubbish in out of my Sky Vac, because at the end of the day, I like to show the customer what we've got out so they feel like they've got value for their money. There's a lot more different equipment that goes in there. It takes up a lot of space in the back of my van, which is why I have a 500 litre tank in there, and I won't get a bigger tank because it's going to stop me getting in my gutter vac system, basically. But if I had a smaller system, that would fit in no problem whilst I've got a bigger tank. So there's pros and cons with your gutter vacuums and what size gutter vacuum you're going to go after. But at the end of the day, it's definitely made a difference no matter what way you go for my back, and not having to lose 2 weeks work because I'm not having to move a ladder around the house and sometimes at awkward angles as well. Now, another big investment, but I'd already done this because I don't know if I mentioned it in episode 1. When I had my first problem with my van, I was having to work from the family car. So I was using a backpack, a gardener's backpack, and I was using, I think I had 6 barrels of water, no more than that, because the car can only carry a certain amount. But with all the lifting of barrels of water, lifting it up to put into a backpack, then handling the backpack round, you can't make water any lighter than what it is. And at the time, because I just started, I had a composite pole from X-Line. So it's fiberglass and carbon fiber. So straight away I thought, right, I need to get a carbon fiber pole at some point. But when my shoulders are really killing me and I was saying to my wife, it's the only thing, I can't keep this up too much longer, something's going to go. The only thing I can make my life easy is the pole. So I said about the carbon fiber pole, said how much they were, because to the time that was a hell of a lot of money to me. So I said, I'm going to go one stage further and get the high mod pole, because that's what I'd eventually gone to anyway. So I skipped the carbon fiber pole and went to the high mod. So I got the carbon, well, it's not the carbon, it's the X-Line Nano. So it's a high modulus, high mod pole, basically. They are nice and lightweight. They're more rigid, especially than your composite poles, but they're more rigid than a carbon fiber pole as well. And because they're nice and lightweight, you would not believe the difference it makes. Now, I like using the X-Line brushes, but I've started to use a gardener brush at the moment to see how I get on with that, because that's a lot lighter. So little things like that, your brushes on the end, and getting a nice light one, but it's still good enough to do the job of cleaning the windows, they all make a difference, especially as you get to my age, that's for sure. So yeah, the pole, that was definitely another good investment. But what you've got to realise is if you're going to go to, because there's obviously lots of makes out there, a high mod pole, they are going to wear a lot faster than the carbon fiber pole, and definitely faster than the composite poles. So there's pros and cons with everything. But as long as you clean them once a week like I do, look after them, they're going to last for a long time. And it's mainly the first section or section 2 that are going to wear out any faster than anything else, because they're the ones you're going to extend the most. And it is more expensive than a carbon fiber pole to replace. But that's what you gain from it, is the weight. So it's something I've invested in. I'm stuck into the ecosystem of it, but I am happy with it. That's the main thing. So when Matthew started learning with me, I'd give him the rubbish composite pole. And then I said, once I can see that you've got into the routine of looking after the pole, cleaning it the way I asked you to, when you show me you can do that, I will buy you the same pole I've got, the Nano, because he could see how light it was. And especially because I was thinking of his back as well. It took a while, but eventually he got there. And then when I felt he was going to look after the pole good enough, I will spend the money. And so he's now got a Nano pole as well. And it's these little things definitely have made a big difference, little things. It's a lot of money I've invested in there, but it's worth it because I have not pulled my back out due to any of those things where I did previously. And that's been 5 years. So it just goes to show investing in decent kit gives you a return of investment because you're not losing work through having to take time off because you've got an injured back, for example. For those of you who are going to go to work on Monday or today, if you're listening to it, if it's the day the podcast comes out every Monday morning, and you've got a sore back and that, just think what's worth the most to you. You know, is your health worth a lot to your family? And like I said, it's a good return investment. It stops you having to take off time off work. And once you've pulled something once or twice, it's going to be weaker, isn't it? And it's going to get worse. And let's face it, we get older every year as well. So you take that into account. Now, having spent money on all these things, yes, they all do wear and tear. That's the problem with these sort of inventions, upgrades. I always make sure I look after my gutter vacuum. So the end of every clean, bog standard, sucking water through it, all that kind of stuff, because I want it to be able to go on the next job, because we do 2 or 3 gutter clears on a gutter day. But also at the end of that day, on a weekend when I get home, I just give everything a good clean out so it's as good as new. That way, though, your kit's going to last you a long time, and I've spent a lot of money on it, so I'm going to look after it, and it does look after me in return. Same with me poles, clean them every week. And it's the electric reels as well. Unfortunately, there are bits on there that are going to go because it's doing a lot of hard work and there is wear and tear. These things do happen, so you might lose the odd day, but it's quite rare in the time that you have it, actually. So they are definitely a worthwhile investment, or they have been for me. I suppose at the end of the day, it depends what type of work you do, the volume of work you've got, and your age. Now, some of you might have old injuries from playing sports in the past or through different lines of work. So again, this sort of investment is good, and you are going to get a return of investment back. Like I said, you're not going to lose days through not working due to injuries or you're pulling muscles, that kind of thing. And the back is a big thing. And no matter how hard we say about health and safety, sticking with manual handling, you will be in that flow and in that rush of trying to get through your work. You will be standing at the wrong angle, or you can't stand at the right angle because there's something in the way, for example, and you will lift something and it will catch you out. So buying all this kit, it is expensive, but it's worthwhile. And once you've got it, you've got it. And it's a nice feeling to have all that as well. And your customers as well, when they see what money you've spent. I mean, I don't think they realize how much the kit costs, but when you mention it, they can see you're serious, if you get what I mean. And it gets you a lot of work as well, to be honest. It has for me. Everyone hears the generator in the street and starts looking, and then, you know, it gets them thinking, especially if they have got a problem with the gutters or you've had a lot of rain recently, you know, people all of a sudden want the gutters cleared and they see you with all the gear. It's absolutely brilliant. It helps. And also it can justify the price as well once they realise the kit you're using. But they have all been good investments for me. And like I said, since having these, I haven't pulled me back out because of them. There's occasions where they have gone, but that's been my fault. I've done something silly at home or slipped and jarred me back. But it hasn't happened like it did in that 1 year. Like I said, 2 weeks, 3 times a year. It was a nightmare, and it started to it annoyed me that much. And I said, right, I've got money sat in the bank due to the bounce back loan. I would rather hand that money back and not pay it back, but sod it. I'm going to get all this kit. So I think altogether it's about 7.5 grand's worth of kit basically I brought, but it's made such a big difference. And it is something you don't have to borrow the money. You can aim to upgrade your kit slowly. Doesn't matter how you get there, does it? But if you do these things to look after yourself, and like I said, I'm not getting younger, I'm getting older. Anyway, that's enough of the podcast for today. Hope you liked it. You can see me on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, down as a podcast. Leave stuff in the comments there. Also on iTunes and Spotify. I try and get it on other places. On all of those, there's also a section where you can leave comments or ratings, which will help me out. If there's anything you'd like me to talk about in the podcast next week or in future weeks, just send me the comments that way and I'll see what I can do. Anyway, that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening and stay safe and have a good time on the glass for this week.